Hey, what is up guys? This is the 10th episode of the 2D platformer game, and in this one, we're going to change things a little bit. First off, I'm really tired of seeing that background over here. The skybox, so we're going to change that skybox first. And also, we are going to start tackling the camera movement. And for that, I've deleted my whole level actually. I was tired of seeing my level as well, so deleted everything. So the cube that was making the low level scene. And yeah, so we're back with a fresh scene, and we have a player on top of it, which has my player script and also a character controller. Okay, now let's go ahead and fix that background thing I've talked about. So we're going to go in Window, and we are going to go in Lighting. Now where it says Skybox over here, we're going to click the little sign next to it. We're going to put that on None. Now we have a very clean scene. And we don't have any skybox. So, in this one, we are going to tackle the movement of the camera, so left to right, and it's just going to follow, actually not left to right, but it's going to follow the players. So, to do that, I am going to create myself a small level, actually, so we can just gauge that movement, we can see that movement in game. So, take one cube and maybe just another one, just to give it a perspective. Let's hit play on this, and what we want our camera to do now is to keep a lock on the player, so keep looking at the player even when we go past that point. Okay, to do that, what we are going to do is we are going to start by creating another script. So inside of your script folder over here, let's right click on that, create a new C# script, and this is going to be the camera motor. I would call it only camera, but then it would interfere with the camera type. This one actually, so we don't get any conflict. We're simply going to call it something else than simply camera. In my case, camera motor. Okay, now let's go back on top of our camera. Let's drag and drop this script right on top of it. Now, since our camera script is in the scene, if we have a start function on it, or an update function on it, it's going to be called. So let's go ahead and open up this camera motor script. Open it in Mono Develop, which is should spawn by default, and this is our new blank page to create that very logic. So we said that we wanted the player, we wanted the camera to keep looking at this player object. To do that, we need a reference to that very player object. What we are going to do is we are going to take a reference of it using its transform. So go ahead and declare yourself a private transform, and this is going to be the lookAt transform. The reason I'm calling it lookAt is a little bit later, if you want to move your camera, you want to change players, so you have two different players, or you want to look at something else for say 5 seconds, then you can simply change this lookAt object. Actually, you know what? We're going to make it public. Okay, so public transform lookAt. I am going to wipe this and rewrite these functions. So the first one was start, private void start, and in our start we need to assign this very function. Actually, since it's public now, we don't really need to assign it. I'm just going to show you something real quick. Since we made this transform public, it is going to appear in the inspector. So camera motor script, the one we're scripting right now, and you can see that lookAt is now part of the inspector, and then we can manually assign which field is going to take place in there. So we can simply drag and drop the player right on top of this field. Now it knows that lookAt, which is our field over here, is equal to the player. Say we do a little debug to show it. So debug.log lookAt.name. So give me the name of the game object that I'm looking at right now. Let's press play. And it says player down here, which is the name of our cube. Okay, now we know that this link is made, the connection is there. What we need to do next is we need to update the camera position. So every single frame, we want to be able to move the camera around. We want to be able to move its position so it keep looking at our object. So in the update, we're going to say transform.position, which is the camera. Well, actually, it is whatever object has this script this is the transform of that very object. So transform.position is now equal to, say, look at dot transform. Let's try this in the update. Okay, small error here. We're going to go back here and say transform dot position. Okay, now we're good. Let's go back in game and look at what this gives us. Press play. Oh, this is a little bit weird, right? Now, actually, what happens is, if I split my scene, you're going to see what happens is my camera is taking the position of the player, which is exactly what we told him to do. So as you can see, the camera is moving with the player, but what we need here is we need some kind of offset. If I put this on pose, we need it to be like over here, but every frame it's going to be reset to the player's position instead, like this. So let's just go take a look at what kind of offset we could give our camera. So maybe this. So it says 6.5 over here in Z, and our player is at 0. So let's give it a minus 6.5 offset. So up here, let's declare ourselves a private vector3 that we're going to call offset is equal to a new vector3 0 0 minus 6.5. And now what we're going to do is every frame put me at the position of the player plus my offset. Now let's go ahead and try this in game, see what we get as a result. Oh, so this is looking way better actually. Okay, before we end this episode, I'd like to add a little something here. So basically what happens in our code right now is in the frame in order, so we move our player around and then the camera updates its position depending on that very player position. Now we don't have any kind of control over which script is being executed first. So say the player script was done after the camera script, so the camera would move and then the player would then move, then we'd have a problem. The reason is the camera position depends on the position of the player. Now in my case, I'm lucky I'm not getting that very error. I'm not getting the camera script to run first before the player script. But it might happen in your case that the camera is being updated first and then the player moves and it creates some kind of little flicker in our game, something that we don't really want. Actually, we don't want at all. To fix that, we need to make sure the camera is updated second, and in order to do that, we are going to go back in our camera mother, and where it says update here, we are going to add a late update. Now this is also a callback from Unity. It is called every frame when it can, and it's pretty much just being called after the update. And now if you were getting that very error I'm talking about, you're not anymore because the camera is always updated second. Okay guys, that's about it for this episode. In this one we covered how to attach a camera to our player without putting it as a children, which can be really annoying a little bit later on if you want to create some camera effects. And also remember that we assign this look at object as a public field. So say in the middle of your game you want to look at something else instead, so you want to look at this light, then you can simply change the look at of the object. And now it's looking at the light. But the light isn't moving, so that's not really entertaining. Anyway guys, thanks for watching and I will see you in the next episode.